Picture this. In one of America's most remote corners, a desolate gas station. The rumble of Harley-Davidson engines approaching, and nobody knew that what was about to unfold would become one of rock history's most unforgettable moments. But the truly shocking part? The Hells Angels had no clue who they were about to encounter. In the heart of the Arizona desert, at an old gas station on Route 66, the clock showed 3 in the afternoon. The temperature had reached nearly 104 degrees Fahrenheit, with heat waves rising from the asphalt, making the air shimmer. This gas station was one of those biker hangouts, remote, quiet, and the kind of place where nobody asked questions. Ozzy Osbourne had pulled up in his old Toyota Camry because his fuel gauge had crossed into the red zone, and according to his map, the next station was 80 miles away. The 75-year-old rock legend never expected to find himself in such a situation when he'd set out on his journey. After a small but exhausting argument with Sharon, he'd hit the road alone to clear his head. "Ozzy, you're 75 years old. You need to stop just taking off like this," Sharon had said. But Ozzy's response was firm. "Sharon, I'm a free man until the day I die." Sometimes I need the silence. He was wearing faded blue jeans, a worn Black Sabbath t-shirt, and an oversized baseball cap. His sunglasses would ensure nobody would recognize him, or so he hoped. As he filled up his tank, he heard the distant rumble of motorcycle engines. First 1, then 2, then, like an orchestra. 10 members of the Hells Angels rolled into the gas station, wearing their signature black leather vests. They ranged in age from their 40s to their 60s, all with that typical biker look. Long hair, beards, arms covered in tattoos, and that "don't mess with me" attitude. The leader was a guy called Tank, a 50-something, 6'3" massive man. Even parking his bike, he radiated an air of dominance. But at that moment, they had no idea who they were dealing with. "What the hell's going on here?" Tank said, eyeing Ozzy's car. "What's this?" Grandpa Mobile. The Hells Angels members laughed. To them, these old Japanese cars were symbols of weakness and a lack of real manhood. Ozzy looked up but said nothing. He just quietly continued filling his tank, as if nobody was around. This attitude made the Hells Angels members even more curious. Most people either ran when they saw them or stared with fear-filled eyes. This guy was different. "Hey, Grandpa!" Tank called out, his voice echoing through the gas station. "What's your business around here? You lost or something?" The laughter grew louder. "Maybe we should give you a ride home. Your family might be worried about you." Next to Tank, a 45-year-old man with scars on his face, nicknamed Razor, added, "But first, he should give us some entertainment. Right, boys?" The others nodded, finding the situation amusing. But they had no idea when the real entertainment was about to begin. The gas pump clicked off, and Ozzy slowly replaced his fuel cap. Even his movements radiated a calmness, as if he'd been dealing with situations like this his entire life. At this point, normal people would panic, try to run, or call the police. But Ozzy Osbourne wasn't normal. 50 years of stage experience had taught him how to handle every type of crowd, from the most aggressive hecklers to the most peaceful listeners. As he walked toward them, he spoke in that familiar Birmingham accent. "Entertainment?" Interesting choice of words. "I'm wondering if we're on the same page about what entertainment means, mates." Tank frowned. There was something about this old man's attitude. Not fear, but rather a strange confidence. There was something familiar about his voice, too, but he couldn't quite figure out what. "Who the hell are you?" he asked, with a slight hesitation in his voice. Ozzy flashed that famous crooked smile. "I'm just someone who came to get petrol, mate. But I'm curious. Who are you? Did you just come from a costume party?" This comment stunned the Hells Angels members. Nobody dared talk to them like this, especially not someone this age. Tank took a step forward, puffing out his chest. "We're Hells Angels, old man. The toughest guys in this country. And you're trying to mess with us right now." There was threat in his voice, but also curiosity. Why wasn't this guy scared? Why wasn't he running? Ozzy tilted his head, with almost childlike curiosity. "Hells Angels. That name sounds familiar. Aren't you the guys from that Altamont concert? The ones from the Rolling Stones show in 1969? That terrible night. This reference surprised several members. Most people knew about Hell's Angels, but few remembered Altamont. This guy seemed to know music history. Tank became even more furious. Altamont was a dark chapter in the group's history and wasn't something they liked to discuss. Yeah, that was us. And right now I'm real close to breaking your nose, Grandpa. Ozzy raised his hands in a calming gesture. Easy there, mate. We're just talking. By the way, I was backstage at that concert, hanging with the Rolling Stones. Small world, isn't it? This statement hit like a bombshell. The Hells Angels members looked at each other. This old man was either incredibly brave, completely insane, or something else entirely. The Hells Angels members were now looking more carefully. This man's way of speaking, his references, his attitude, everything was starting to seem familiar. Tank began studying Ozzy more closely. There was something about the old man's facial features, his tone of voice. "Who do you think you are to be hanging backstage?" he asked, suspicion in his voice, but also growing curiosity. Ozzy shrugged, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. As the vocalist of Black Sabbath, or I was. Now I'm retired, you could say. Sharon and I watch TV all day and she constantly tells me, "Ozzy, do this, don't do that." This name created a bombshell effect among the Hells Angels group. Razor jumped forward. "You're lying. Black Sabbath's singer is much younger and—" He stopped, looking more carefully at Ozzy's face. The old man had pleading eyes, begging him to remove his sunglasses. Tank was experiencing the same doubt, but didn't want to accept it. "If you're really Ozzy Osbourne, prove it to us. Sing a song. Do something." The Hells Angels members had formed a circle, studying the man. This was an important moment, because if this was real, standing before them wasn't just a rock star, but a legend they deeply respected. Ozzy slowly removed his sunglasses, as if revealing a great secret. Those familiar blue eyes, the facial features recognizable from thousands of concert posters and album covers. The Hells Angels members froze. The man standing before them really was the legendary Ozzy Osbourne. "My God," Razor whispered. "It's really him." Tank's mouth hung open. "No way. You're actually Ozzy Osbourne." The other members were also in shock. "Yes, I'm really that guy," Ozzy said, his voice now more relaxed. "The one who wrote Paranoid, bit the bat's head off, nearly killed Sharon. Whether those stories are true, I don't know, but that's what the media says." He winked to show he was joking. "Actually, I didn't try to hurt Sharon. I was just very drunk and out of my mind at the time. But she forgave me. We've been married for 42 years. The Hells Angels members were still in shock. Tank leaned forward as if he wanted to kneel. "Mr. Osbourne, we didn't recognize you. I'm sorry, truly sorry." The other members had also bowed their heads, filled with shame. They hadn't recognized the legendary Ozzy and had been disrespectful to him. Ozzy raised his hand to stop them. "Tank, right? Don't worry about it, mate. I always dress like this. Sharon constantly says dress properly, but I like being comfortable. Besides, you were just doing your job. Hell's Angels' job is to intimidate people, right? But honestly, I've been through so many terrible things that I don't really get scared of much anymore." These words had relaxed the group, but also made them even more curious. The group members looked at each other, then suddenly burst into laughter. The tension completely dissolved, and the air was now filled with respect and admiration. Razor approached Ozzy. "Mr. Osbourne, when I was a kid, I must have listened to the Paranoid album thousands of times. That album changed my life, especially War Pigs. It came out during the Vietnam War era, and the lyrics reflected our thoughts exactly." Tank added, "Iron Man. That song made me fall in love with rock music. And now you're standing right here in front of us, a real legend." The Hells Angels members were now in full fan mode. Ozzy smiled genuinely. "When we wrote Iron Man, none of us thought it would have this kind of impact. When I first heard Tony Iommi's riff, I said, This is going to be something, but not to this extent. We wrote that song in 1970. I was 21 years old. Now I'm 75, and people are still singing that song. The Hells Angels members didn't want to break the magic of this moment, but they had so many questions. "Mr. Osbourne," Tank said with deep respect in his voice, "is there anything we can do for you? I mean, escort you, security, whatever." Ozzy shook his head. "No, mate. I just want to get my petrol and continue on my way. But—" He paused, looking at the group. There was childlike excitement in the Hells Angels members' eyes. "We could chat for a while. This place seems pretty quiet, and I was feeling lonely anyway. Sharon and I had a row. I needed some silence." This offer sent the Hells Angels members over the moon. The legendary Ozzy Osbourne wanted to spend time with them. The Hells Angels members sat in a semicircle in front of the gas station, like they were gathered around a campfire. Ozzy sat among them without any hesitation. "Now," he said in that familiar voice, "tell me what it's like being Hells Angels. I've always wondered. The media always portrays you badly, but I want to see with my own eyes." Tank began explaining. "Freedom, brotherhood, the rules of the street. But we're actually like a family. We protect each other, stick together in tough times." Ozzy listened, nodding approvingly from time to time. "It's the same thing in our rock community. Backstage, on tour, even when we fight with each other, in the end we always protected each other." Razor asked curiously, "So was biting the bat's head off real?" That story became legendary. Ozzy laughed. "Ah, that story. Yes, it was real, but it was an accident. It was a concert in Des Moines, 1982. They usually threw plastic bats on stage. That night, someone must have thrown a real bat. The poor thing was already dead. I didn't notice because of all that adrenaline. Then I had to get rabies shots." The Hells Angels members roared with laughter. "And Sharon said to me that day, 'Ozzy, you're completely insane.' She was right, of course." As the conversation deepened, an unexpected bond began to form between representatives of two different worlds. Ozzy understood the Hells Angels' search for freedom because he had done the same thing with music, rebel against the system, refuse to follow rules, carve his own path. The Hells Angels members also found their own souls in Ozzy's rebelliousness, in his defiance of authority. "Mr. Osbourne," said a 35-year-old man nicknamed Snake from the Hells Angels, "can I tell you something? Your story with Sharon always deeply affects me. Despite all the hardships, you managed to stay together. Cheating scandals, drug problems, health issues, but you always fought through it together." Ozzy's face softened. "Sharon, without that woman, I would have been dead long ago. She protected me from myself. Even in my worst times, she never left my side. Marriage isn't easy, especially ours. But when it's with the right person, it's worth fighting for. She's my manager, my wife, my best friend." His voice began to tremble. Tank said, "We bikers are the same way. We stay loyal to each other. In good times, bad times, troubled times." Ozzy nodded. "Exactly right. Music is like that too. In Black Sabbath with Tony, Geezer, Bill. Even if we fought for 50 years, even if we hated each other sometimes, in the end, we're family. We still talk, we still love each other." As it grew completely dark, this extraordinary group was still chatting. It was time to say goodbye, but nobody wanted to break this spell. Tank stood up. "Mr. Osbourne, this evening was very special for us. Meeting you, talking with you. It was one of the most beautiful moments of our lives." The other members joined in. "Yes, it was a legendary evening. We'll never forget this." Ozzy also stood up. "It was the same for me, boys. You're genuinely good people. I have to confess, I had prejudices, but I was wrong. The media always portrays you badly, but you're different in reality." This sincere confession made the Hells Angels members very happy. Tank pulled out a Hells Angels patch from his pocket. "This is yours now. You're officially an honorary member." The patch was a special handcrafted piece with a skull and angel wings on it. Ozzy took the patch, his eyes welling up. "This is so meaningful. Thank you." I'll carry this with me always. Then he pulled something from his own pocket. An old yellowed concert ticket. This is for you. From the first Black Sabbath concert in 1970, from Birmingham Town Hall. I always carry it with me, for luck. The Hells Angels members would never forget this gesture. They were holding a piece of rock history in their hands. Razor said, "We'll take very good care of this, Mr. Osbourne. We'll frame it and hang it in our clubhouse." Tank added, "And we'll tell our grandchildren the story of this evening. How we became friends with Ozzy Osbourne. Nobody will believe us. Who would believe that Hells Angels chatted with Ozzy in the desert?" Ozzy laughed. "Life sometimes offers incredible things. I didn't think I'd encounter something like this when I woke up this morning, either." The Hells Angels members escorted Ozzy to the gas station exit. Their motorcycles formed a protective formation around his car, as if they were protecting a VIP. Ozzy rolled down his window. "Safe travels, mates. Take care of yourselves, and if you ever need anything, give me a call. We're friends now." Tank said, "You too, Mr. Osbourne. And remember, you're now part of the Hells Angels family. Our door is always open." This farewell moment brought tears to everyone's eyes. The next day, when he told Sharon this story, his wife first listened in amazement. "Ozzy, did you really become friends with Hells Angels?" Then she laughed. "Of course you did. You're the kind of man who can become friends with anyone." Ozzy smiled. "Sharon, sometimes the most beautiful friendships come from the most unexpected places. Those men taught me that appearance means nothing. It's the heart that matters." Sharon hugged her husband. "That's how you've always been. You manage to see the good in people. That's why I love you." This story became legendary in the Hells Angels community too. Tank and his friends began telling the story of that evening we spent with Ozzy at every opportunity. Photos of that patch and concert ticket went viral on social media. This friendship formed between two different worlds once again proved that music and respect have no boundaries, and how wrong prejudices can be.